This nibble originally aired on RSBANDB Update, episode 874. Go for launch. Enjoy. Now here's one about the direction, and this was a big question in the past recently around the whole limbo of that summer drought of content with Red Realm and Anachronia came out, I think it was. How far out do you plan and think about the content? Months, years in advance? And with this, he says that they have about 5 to 10 years planned in vague detail that can change freely. 1 year in very close detail that might need updates, and this has been the general path since Desperate Times. And I think we've felt that, haven't we?
Yeah. Maybe throw in a 3-year plan in between your 1 and 5.
Yeah.
Say.
Yeah, I think so. But
I think that might be why we do feel wild swings from time to time, or why one thing gets emphasized so heavy, and then you think it's going to be picked up on, but it goes in a completely different direction.
Like the Inquisitors, for example.
Yeah.
From archaeology.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. But do you think they need to telegraph this more, based on what we've been hearing and just having our ear to the ground with the community? You think they need to hear about this more? Because there's the idea with this coming back about a 2022 roadmap.
So I don't think we necessarily have to know about it more as long as they know about it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I want them to know about it.
More importantly than us.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
I'm going to move on to the roadmap question, because that was a couple of questions down from this. They said they wanted to be more transparent with about what's on the way, and the reason they haven't been able to do that now is because it's more about how the story unfolds, in particular, how things could be considered to be organized into sections, chapters, or seasons. So they can't necessarily say what the big thing next is without revealing the end of what we're currently on, if that makes sense.
Well, it does, because there was this conscious effort to tie, the content in with story and really integrate it into the game. So that makes sense, because, for every action you're going to have, it's going to make you think, okay, this happened.
Yeah.
So, no, I get that, and it makes sense to me.
Yeah. They're putting together a reveal about what the next certain chapter, section, or season, or whatever you wants to call it, looks like, and we'll be seeing that relatively soon, which, as we know, there's a quest coming soon that will end the Elder God Wars line, presumably, and they're going to stop ignoring it and focus on more of what's coming up next with clearer reveals. And they say they haven't had an opportunity to do big reveals like this because that used to happen with RuneFest.
Yeah, I mean...
But they could have had their own virtual thing last year and the year before. Like, they could have taken an afternoon and done a keynote with some kind of community in-game event, like a virtual RuneFest kind of thing.
And, everyone else was doing that too. Yeah. So, I mean, it would have been just, I don't think anybody would have minded under the circumstances.
No.
And, going forward, once we get this Elder God Wars season, chapter, whatever, age wrapped up, I think they could integrate story with pieces of content without having to have an overarching big storyline.
Yeah.
Like, you could bring in let's just say a new woodcutting skilling method and have it just kind of maybe bring in some gnomes, an off like thing, just a one-off kind of thing. There's no reason we couldn't use the characters we have to tell stories within these, new piece of content that didn't have an overarching storyline that you had to conform to.
Yeah, that's fair. 100% fair on that. And then You remember what the golden mantra of this podcast was post Menaphos?
Yes.
Yeah. The next thing is that they need to walk the right line between setting and meeting expectations and generating excitement, which is a difficult compromise.
I kept that with me too. Mm-hmm.
And exactly to the tune of that, 4 years ago, there was too much information. 2 years ago, not enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we've always had that in the back of our mind, too, ever since Menaphos. And it feels like until they started that whole Desperate Times angle that we're on that kicked this storyline off, that they had forgot about that as well. So...
Mm-hmm. But, it did serve us well because I think we had moderate expectations for Anachronia, and we're fairly pleased, right? Like, I mean, it wasn't knock your socks off, but it was
the
good.
Hardest thing for you was getting around.
The hardest thing for me was getting around, yeah. And that did get improved. And then we tempered our expectations when it came to archaeology and then got blown away by it.
Yeah.
So managing expectations, kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it's almost like they need their own press secretary to do that.
That something to be said for for the old spin master.
Exactly. And people don't like the term spin master, but that's exactly what it is.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what a press secretary does.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter for who or what side or what. That's their job.
Yeah. And the reveals they want to do will happen before the final Elder God Wars boss. So that on that front puts it May or June. The quest is April.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
So see, we were right on.
It's all about setting expectations, isn't it?
I think it is.
You can find full episodes of RSBANDB Update right here on this YouTube channel. If you found this video useful or just enjoyed it, like and subscribe, or leave a comment.